Welcome back, college baseball fans. We have another Duke coach to interview. This time it's pitching coach Brady Kirkpatrick. Brady, thank you so much for taking the time to join the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Fired up to be on.
Absolutely. We had ET on to kick off this series. We're going to have you towards the end here to kind of help end this coaching series. But I really wanted to talk to both of you because, you know, what you guys have done at Duke over the last couple of years, I think has been overlooked a little bit. And I think both you and him have done a fantastic job. But last year in particular, it was him with the hitting coming out of nowhere. And then you in 2023 in your first year, I thought the job that you guys did after Luke Fox went down and Jonathan Santucci went down was just unbelievable. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your coaching journey and how you got to Duke.
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place. I knew from pretty early on I wanted to start coaching. I played at University of Maryland when Duke was still in the ACC. So I wasn't too fond of Duke going throughout college, and I had a couple of injuries the last couple of years on the mound, and that's what transitioned me into coaching. I started seeing baseball from a different side of it, which I loved, and I had some great mentors around me at that time. At that moment, I had Jimmy Ballinger, who's now the pitching coach at Clemson. I had him for my last 2 years. Before that, I had Sean Kinney, who is now at Iowa. He's bounced around a little bit. So I've had some really good people as my pitching coach growing up, and I think that kind of transitioned me, and I fell in love with that side of it from those guys. And then from there, I went to University of San Diego. I had an extra year because of a surgery. So I did grad school there, and then that's where I started coaching. I was started off as a volunteer under Rich Hill there for a year. And then from that, took a brief stint up at University of Rochester. Got hired on for about 3 months before I jumped ship and went over to Monmouth University with Coach Ehalt. Was there for 2 years. From then went to University of Harvard, 1 season, but there for 3 years. We won the Ivy League championship in 2019, and went on to the Oklahoma State regional. At that time, they were doing construction on their field, so it was being played in Oklahoma City at the minor league park there. And then from Harvard, 1 year at FAU, and then after that, just got over to Duke and going on my third year here.
Yeah, another Harvard connection for Duke. You've got a couple of guys that have that connection this year. You had Logan Bravo last year. Was Logan Bravo part of that 2019 Harvard team as a freshman? Yep. So that must have been interesting to have him join the team last year and get to work with him again. Obviously, he was on the hitting side. But what's it like working under Coach Pollard at Duke? I mean, what makes him so successful as a head coach? Because he's a pretty good one.
Yeah, he's awesome. I can't say enough about the job he's done. From seeing it from both sides. When I played Duke, before he got there, he was there my last year. Duke was the team everybody wanted to play because they knew they were going to get 2 or 3 wins in an ACC weekend. They were the bottom of the conference every year, and they had a first rounder, Marcus Stroman, on their team. When we played them, it was how fast can we get Marcus out, and then we're going to, win the series, maybe even sweep. And seeing the transformation that coach has done over the last 10, 11 years to the program. I saw it from when I played to my last year. When coach just got there, they started making that turnaround. And then just watching it over the years, the job that he's done with the program. And, you talk about it like ET and I coming in and having a lot of success, but it was a lot of success before that. And that's where you start to see it is you might have a down year on a given year, but it's how you respond from that down year, and then just the continued success that the programs have. It's like it's a rarity now for Duke baseball to have a down year, but you can bet that if they have a down year, the next year is going to follow up with something just because of the mentality and the effort and just the ownership Coach Pollard has on the program. He makes players better. He makes coaches better. as people, as coaches. He's around in our personal lives. So it's just it's a great environment to be in. And anytime you can be in an environment like it, you're just going to bring the best out of anybody that's in it. It's just day in and day out. It's going into work, putting in the effort, knowing that you have a boss that's going to probably put in more effort, more work than you are. So I think just some of those intangibles that he brings to the table. But guys love playing for him. We love coaching under him, and I'm sure you guys can see that from up in the stands. Is now in college baseball, you got a lot of different rosters year by year, a lot of turnover, and with that is it's hard to build culture when you don't have many returners, but also you have older guys coming into a environment that they might be different from. We've had a lot of graduate guys that jump right into the culture, and it's a culture that's sustained where we might lose 10, 12 guys, we're replacing it with them, but nothing's going to change from the big picture.
Yeah, and he's fun to interview too. I always am happy to hear what he's got to say post game, win or lose. It's always good information. And you're also familiar with another ACC head coach, very familiar with another ACC head coach, right? With having played for John Sheff at Maryland, He's now at Virginia Tech. What was it like playing for him? Obviously, I get a little bit of a different view of John Sheff being the media versus who he is as a person. I know he's well loved as well by his players and coaches as well. So I was just curious to get some of your thoughts on Coach Sheff.
Yeah, and I actually had Coach Bakich too. So Bakich, he recruited me to Maryland. I'm originally from Oregon, and the combination of him and Sean Kinney got me all the way from Oregon out to Maryland. So I've have a decent amount of ties within the conference of coaches, and but getting back to Coach Sheff, he's one of my favorite people. It's the same guy every single day. You know what you're getting from him, and probably the same way you talk with him in an interview. It can seem very black and white, but you show up to the field, you're going to give with him, that he has your back. And he's helped me out a lot throughout my early years as a coaching. I'd be able to call him up and get his advice on different things, be able to ask him questions and know that he's going to give, good or bad, going to give me honest feedback, what he thinks. So it's someone that I respect in it, and I really value his opinions on everything.
Yeah, it seems like the community of D1 college baseball coaches are small. There's always a connection to somebody. It's really cool. I completely blanked on Bakich being at Maryland right before Sheff. So that's a really cool thing that you've got these connections to these other two ACC head coaches. It's also got to make the matchups a little bit more fun in a way too. You get to see them, but also compete against them. For sure.
And it's two of the guys that have proven themselves in the top, baseball conference, and both of them, it was I believe their first, big time head coaching job when I had them. It was Bakich coming off of being the recruit coordinator at Vanderbilt, his first head coaching job at Maryland, and then Coach Sheff, he was coming over from Kansas State as an assistant, jumping in there too. So. But both those guys, and it's no hidden secret to the success that they've had at both their programs and the stops along the way.
Did you get to see any of the highlights of the Banana Ball game and then Bakich taking his shirt off and showing off how ripped he is?
Yeah, I think that went along in some of the group chats that we were in with some of my teammates from back in the day, and like everybody's going off on him ripping his shirt off and what he looks like without his shirt off. But I was sitting there like, I think he's lost a step. It used to be even more tight everywhere else. So he's I don't know if I've met anybody like him or been around a coach like the energy and passion that he brings.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely. The ACC's got some great coaches, and that's part of what makes my job so much fun, and part of why I'm also trying to highlight some of you guys, the assistant coaches, because you guys are also fantastic. And I want to. We've talked about it a bit, but is there anybody else that you view as a mentor or somebody else you try to emulate besides somebody you've already mentioned?
I mean, along the way, I feel like it's getting bits and pieces from everywhere. I was only at FAU for a year, but learned a ton from Coach McCormack. One of the most selfless, honest, brutally honest to a fault, but just carrying people around the game. Especially like the way baseball and college athletics can be turning. It's people can be losing their souls a lot easier than doing the right thing. And it's really good to surround yourself with people that align with the same values and same message. And yeah, we might be recruiting against each other on certain kids or competing against each other, yelling at each other from the dugout. But we know the values align. We know that it's being done the right way. And you start building those relationships on the road. Guys have your back. I'm sitting here talking good things about two ACC opponents, and I'm pretty confident to be doing the same thing. If they were in my shoes. So it's just the respect for the game, and like I said, Coach McCormack is one of the most I think he's high up there on my list of coaches that I have learned from. And again, it's only been 1 year. I still talk with him all the time. He's been a great mentor.
Yeah, it's always cool to hear about all that. And I think you're right that the coaching people are typically, especially in this conference, I think very complimentary and friendly and connected. And then, they leave it all on the field, which is nice. What's your coaching philosophy? I know this is a bit of a loaded question, especially with the pitching side. So much goes into it, but what's kind of your philosophy when it comes to coaching pitchers?
Yeah, I think if you can break it down, you can have a set of core values, things that you get, hey, you have to do these things well, or we're going to strive to do well. And a big piece of that is competing when you're on that rubber and across the plate. And it's, the smaller stuff that goes into it is strike percentage. We shoot for 60% of up and strikes, being able to land an off-speed pitch if your fastball is not a high swing and miss pitch. And you start getting to more details from there, but we're gonna work extremely fast unless the hitter likes to work fast, then we'll work slow. So being able to adjust and not have such a set way we go about doing things every time. We can have a routine with variability throughout that routine. So these are the things that we're going to focus on, but being able to adjust and be comfortable with adjustments based on maybe a hitter's in the box or it's a different environment. Maybe we have fans in the stands, maybe we don't. The drone's not going to be there. So just being able to handle different situations, and a lot of that it's putting guys in those situations outside game environment. So it's making the fall extremely difficult for them. So come springtime, we've been prepared for everything that's going to be thrown at us in the ACC weekend. But getting back to the point, like absolutes is working fast, throwing strikes, getting 3 outs before their run crosses the plate. And then from there is we build a lot on individual routine, individual development, and being really intentional about everything that we do. So that's how we branch off of, you don't need to be up there and throw 3 pitches in the zone. If your role is to throw 1 pitch in the zone, get a lot of swing and miss on that pitch. So it's really understanding what each guy does well. And then we roll off with individual philosophies for each guy. And some guys might overlap.
Love that. And, one of the, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but I thought the job that you and Coach Pollard did in 2023, your first year, I mean, that was a tall task in your first year because you have 2 guys that look like they're going to be your weekend guys, Luke Fox, Jonathan Santucci, and they both go down. Luke Fox in the fall, Santucci, I want to say, was it mid-March or late March, so that you're spending all of April and May. And basically you guys end up being a bullpen team for most of the rest of that season. And it doesn't typically work as well as what you guys had it do. Normally you just get worn down. You don't have the depth there, but it worked very well. You guys were 1 win from Omaha. How were you guys able to adapt on the fly like that and make that kind of strategy successful when so many other teams would have collapsed?
I think it's a big testament to our guys in that situation, because you look at it, there's a lot of freshmen, a lot of guys that maybe have never thrown more than 10 innings in their college career. So no matter what the stuff has or how good their stuff is or whatever, like there's a huge, aspect of toughness in there, just being able to go out there because you've never done it before. And that's what we were asking out of a lot of guys, is to do something, someone to step up that hasn't stepped up before. So like, we had question marks of how it's going to get done, but at the end of the day, we prepared guys, for toughness. One, just the way we train, the way that we develop, and now they just got to take it a little bit more. So now maybe instead of going 3 outs, you got to extend to 6 outs. We had big years. We had big guys step up. Fran O'Shell that year was an absolute horse for us, and he threw 10 innings the year before. So it's a guy that, tripled to quaded his innings for that year, that was able to step up and carry the load a little bit. And I think that's what we've done so well on even last year and every year, is we're not defined by one guy. Just because in baseball that one guy can go down. We'll surround ourselves, and we'll roll Jonathan Santucci out there as our workhorse, as our guy. But hey, we got 10, 12, 14 guys in the stable that go out there and compete and get outs. And I think that's testament to why, we don't, it's not like we don't want starters to go deep in games, is we just haven't needed to with the way we kind of map out our bullpen and then how we develop guys individually. We have guys in the pen that match up really well with pretty much any type of hitter that might be coming to the plate.
Absolutely. And two of those freshmen from that year, they regressed a little bit last year in James Talon and Owen Proch. Obviously, they still had their bright spots throughout the season, but what happened a little bit with their regression? Because, James Talon was so dominant as a freshman, and Proch was so good. What happened differently with them last season as opposed to their freshman year, and what can you do to bring them back as juniors?
Yeah, those two are going to be huge pieces of our success this year, and they've both been great. They were going through some stuff, sophomore year, dinged up a little bit, things that happen, and it's. I think long term, it's going to really help them out. It's two guys that have never really went through rough patches before. Talking about a freshman year like James Talon had, out of the get go, not just the back half of the year, but just. From the first pitch he threw is, and two, it's like with all the scouting reports out there now too, like hitters now know what you're going to get, when you're going to get, how you're going to get it. So it's like coming off that year when no one really know what to expect, coming off that year in 22 where they had a lot of bumps in the road as a staff. No one was really expecting anything from Duke baseball, especially on the mound when you hear, Luke Fox goes down. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, fuels a lot of it. And we just got to be a little bit better coming off of last year of understanding now that the target on our back is massive. Now James Talon went into his sophomore year with everybody in the whole world knowing who James Talon was, and every hitter in the box wanted a piece of him. Because that's the competitiveness of the conference. That's the competitiveness of baseball, is we don't want to face the 10th or 12th guy on the roster. No, we want, this upcoming year, our hitters are begging for Jamie Arnold to get in the box. Do they want another crack at him? Like that's the way that the conference is aligned. And I think that's what's the best thing about college baseball is being able to have that competitive edge. And now it's our job to try to find ways to not reinvent ourselves, but to add to what we do well, and trying to find the next little piece that gets us over the hump without kind of changing our identity.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. I interviewed Stanford outfielder Court McDonald and asked him what pitcher in the ACC he might be looking forward to face, or not necessarily look forward to, but excited to compete against. And right away, it was the guy from Florida State with the low slot, Jamie Arnold. So, that shows the competitive spirit is they want to face the best and not necessarily asking for it, because you don't want to, not like that, but they're excited to compete and face that kind of opponent.
It's the same thing with us. Like I enjoy sitting in the dugout and watching guys that are that good at their craft pitch. I love those 1-0, 2-1 ball games where you're hanging on the edge of your seat, and Like I love that environment. I want guys to feed off that too. But also, it was nice having those games last year when you can just roll Charlie Bielenson into the game at any point, and at any part of the weekend.
I think we made it 20 minutes without mentioning Chuck, and I can't believe that. I actually mentioned him in my last interview with Georgia Tech coach Matt Taylor, which is coming. I'm going to have his aired after yours, but I was like, oh man, I mention Chuck in every chance I get. He is one of my favorite all-time college pitchers. Just speaking of competitive, what a dude. I mean, how much fun was he to coach, and how annoying was he trying to get into the games?
It was, it's one of the best people. The amount he cared about his teammates, the amount, like, you watch him, it's the small stuff that a lot of people don't see is, he's dominating all last year, and he might be working, and you look out there in a midweek game and he's playing catch with a guy that hasn't pitched at all this whole season, working on him with different pitches, giving him feedback on, like, just being a great person, but trying to share his insight and his thoughts. And for him, it's frustrating at times just because he's so good at manipulating the baseball. He can make it do whatever he wants. Sometimes he does. Guys, might spike a fastball, and it's like, okay, Charlie, now everybody can do what you can with the baseball. But yeah, his ability to off the field to do some of that stuff, to get outside himself in a year that he's having one of the best years of history of baseball, and especially in Duke history, being able to pour his effort and everything into his guys. And it would have been very easy for him last year to say, no, I don't want to pitch today, I'm sore. And it was a lot tougher last year. Like 2 years ago, he set the school record in appearances. And we didn't think a whole lot of it. He was thrown sidearm a little bit, drove the top. He was one of those guys. It was his last year of baseball. There was no pro ball there for him at that time, just because the stuff was a little lighter. So it was like, okay, Charlie doesn't get in there and pitch. His last year, he's going to lay it all out there. Last year was a little bit different because we were sitting there halfway through the year and like, we can't burn this guy out. He has a long future ahead of him. He didn't set himself up for pro baseball for a long time to come. He's going to want to get out there every game, but we got to make sure that we're looking at the big picture for him and the next step. So I think there was one or two times, not many, that we told him not even to bring his cleats. Like we wouldn't even let him put them on, because if he had them on and it was a close game at the end, he probably would have talked us into getting down there and getting hot. So like we would tell him just to leave him at home, leave him in his locker, because he was that type of competitor. And one of the best moments of it was when we were playing Virginia Tech. We just played them in a 3-game series, or game 3. I think he already threw 4 innings, maybe 50 pitches each day of the first 2. They went into extra innings both games. So we're absolutely depleted on Sunday. I think we used 10 pitchers, maybe more. And I think we might have went extra innings that game too, 9 or 10, I think. And then we planned on having him down, because it's usually with Charlie, he has a really good job of his routine, what he needs to do with his body throughout the game to recover. So it's usually, hey, let's see before the game, let's go through our normal routine and see how we feel. And then we can kind of play it by ear. Then it's constant throughout the game. Hey, I'm starting to loosen up. I'm good. That game was like, no, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I'll start my routine halfway through the game. I'll let you know by, the 7th or 8th, if there's anything in there. And we come along to the back end of the game. We're throwing anybody and everybody that we have out there. AJ hits a home run, or Logan Bravo hits a home run tied. AJ hits a home run to take the lead. And so we have to play the bottom half of the inning, and you see AJ sprint down to the bullpen. It would have been his first appearance in the year. He pitched for us all last fall. One of the best left-handed breaking balls I've seen in a long time. A really good pitch. And he started going down there to get warm and get hot. I walked down there just, make sure that it's the first time out there. He's going to come in and pitch. He's pumped up. And the next thing I know, I see Charlie start playing catch and kind of just like pushing AJ off the mound. He goes, no, no. Yeah, I got this. But he's like, I asked him, I was like, was AJ not throwing strikes? Like, oh, it was not looking good. He goes, no. He goes, once I saw AJ coming down there, I wasn't letting him go in the game before me. So Charlie ended up going in for that inning, getting the save or getting the win. But yeah, that was a game where we didn't think we had Charlie in at the last minute. He said, no, I'm pitching. But it was a lot of that constant back and forth. Like Charlie shouldn't be pitching, but he's pitching.
My favorite was just watching him in the dugout at the ACC tournament, and it got to a point where even in this fall games, I'm looking at the dugout, and I'm like, he's not there. He's in pro ball now. Just a wonderful human being. I remember asking him at the ACC tournament when he was in the stands watching one of the other games, and I was like, do you really have 3 degrees? He's like, well, it's really 2. One of them kind of goes. I'm like, no, don't patronize me. like very smart kid, and obviously a lot of success. And I can't wait to see what he does up there in pro ball. But you mentioned Fran O'Shell. One of my favorite stats about him in that year is I think guys were 3 for 58 his sophomore year with runners on base, something insane like that. Just awesome kid. You're getting his younger brother, not there's one at UVA now. There's another one coming to Duke. That's got to be exciting. But how's the staff looking this year? You've obviously got some turnover and some new faces, but you bring back Kyle Johnson, you bring back Andrew Healy, and a lot of others. How's it looking this year? Is it looking good and you excited for it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's looking a little bit more like 22, which it helps. Like anytime you have a year like that, and then last year was a good year. We had a lot of success. We were top 10, a lot of different categories, but it wasn't. When 22, we didn't really have many roles laid out there. Fox went down. Santucci was still swinging the bat. So we didn't really have any defined roles. We had a lot of guys that were hungry, that wanted to prove something. I'm seeing more of that this year because of, like Andrew Healy had a good year last year, but it's nothing near what he can do or what he wants to do. So he came back a different person in his work ethic. And, you saw it in the fall when, he's up to 95 in the fall game. A couple falls ago, we were happy for getting 88 on him when there's no adrenaline running. So, the guys that are coming back and ready to go from James Talon, he had a down year, going through some stuff. I had a down year last year. Like he's fired up, ready to get back. So we have a lot of those pieces that maybe didn't perform as well last year. But from I'll tell you, we're going to be a different staff than we were the last 2 years. And I think that's what the beautiful thing about college baseball is you can create an identity year to year and have your guys start to buy into it throughout the year. Like you can have your culture piece where every year you have your mainstays would stay the same. Your identity can change year to year based on what you have throughout your staff. And I think trying to find that in the fall it can be really tough at times. So you're going to fail a lot to try to find out what your niche is going to be this fall. For example, 2 years ago, we our 4-seam fastball, we had the most strikeout percentage in the country with it. We had a ton of guys that could ride the baseball at the top of the zone. Everybody found, almost everybody on our whole team rode the baseball except for one, Gabe Nard, who sunk it at the top of the zone with power and a ton of strikeouts with the fastball. Last year, we led the country in strikeout percentage with our changeup, and we had 46% swing and miss with our changeup. So trying to identify that on a given year, a lot of times in the fall, you don't have a complete picture. In 22, we struck out nobody in the fall, and we went on and set the school record in strikeouts that year. So you really don't know, but you use the time to fail a lot in the fall and try to identify what you have, and try to put guys in position. So, this fall, trying to see what we had. We got a lot of returners that are back, that are more like their form from 2 years ago. We have a really good group of freshmen this year that have that different unique slots from all over the place. So and right now we don't have a set. This is where our rotation is going to be, and I love it. I think sometimes you can get complacent. And don't get me wrong, it's awesome when you can Jonathan Santucci out there every Friday night,
Yeah.
and know that from the start of the fall. But right now we put a lot of good work in. We threw as many innings this fall as we did the last 2 years. So we faced a lot of hitters. We failed a lot, which I love because it was in the right way. It was guys working on something is the reason they failed. So I think you're going to see a different staff, and I think you saw a little bit of it. In our fall game, we have a lot of different unique options to roll out there. We have a ton of left-handed pitching, which we haven't been too deep on in the past. So I think it's a different, less powerful team on the mound, pure power and stuff. Probably some more pitchability. But at this point, who knows? Like, it's the most important part of the year is happening right now when we're not able to be out there working with the guys. It's what they're doing on their own, and it's how they come back after this winter break.
Absolutely. And a guy who kind of came out of nowhere last year, despite all that depth you had that I thought was really good, was Gabe Nard, you just mentioned. He went up to the Cape, got work in there. Ed Hart, I didn't get to see him pitch, I don't think, this fall in the three games I saw, but he was an all-star up at the Cape and had a fantastic summer. Are those two guys you're looking to rely on a lot going into next season?
Yeah, for sure. Gabe had a kind of a breakout year that we all expected him to have last year. I thought he went under the radar a lot, just because of Charlie and because of Santucci and Kyle Johnson. You look at it; it's second on our team in ERA. I think first or second in appearances. He wasn't on the highlight of a lot of things, but we threw him in a lot of different situations. And he has that unique sinker profile. He's added a four seam and added a few pitches. He's a kid that's had a lot of success and knows how to win. I think he went 24-0 in high school, never lost a game. He's a great kid, great competitor. He's gonna be a big piece of it. At Hart's continuing to take those steps. And again, it's guys buying into our development and how we treat each individual. Is they're not going to go off and try to be great at 10 different things. We're going to understand how your body moves, how you operate, what you need to work on. Maybe there's room for improvement or red flags for injury. We're going to focus on all those things in the weight room and our training, nutrition, all that. But when it comes to on the mound, guys know what they're good at, understand what they're good at, and not surprised by anything that's thrown at them from the offensive side. And that's where they can really start taking those next steps.
Yeah, I really want to talk about some of the transfers you brought in. You brought in a group of really good veteran transfers, and I think those kind of moves get undervalued a little bit because I've seen it at so many schools where you get the guys that can throw strikes, they have the experience, they know how to get out of jams, and I think sometimes they can get a bit undervalued because they only throw 90 or something like that. But how excited are you to work with those guys? Obviously, they're going to play a big role. Reed Easterly comes to mind, Mark Hindy, Ryan Calvert, those kind of guys.
Yeah, those guys are awesome, and it's again like not the pitchers on the mound, but how awesome they are with some of the younger guys. Like they're coming in from schools that they're captains on, and they know the leadership roles, and now they're in a different environment. And they've just been tremendous with all of our younger guys, with our whole team in general. But the value those guys add to the table, and honestly, like if I had a set philosophy that everybody had to follow, it would hurt those guys probably the most because they've already done stuff at such a high level for 4 years, and they've developed their own routines. They've developed the way they go about things. So a lot of times I learn from them on, hey, what they've done well in the past, because that might be something different that can help somebody else out. But what I think frees those guys up is being in a different environment where they don't have to be the only guy or the guy on their team. Like for example, Reed Easterly sometimes didn't know when he was pitching because they just throw him at the highest leverage moment where they needed a win. He's not going to have that huge load on his shoulders, this year with our team. Well, I hope not. But also, like it frees them up too is getting into a little bit more of a structured development routine. The resources that Duke has to offer, from the technology standpoint to the sports medicine. We have a PT that's with us at all times. from our strength and conditioning, like guys to start gaining a little bit in those areas, with already to have the foundation of getting a ton of hitters out. It's a really good recipe for success. You know, freshmen have to worry about getting bigger, faster, stronger, and they've never got anybody out before. So it's like you got to work on all that at once. So it takes a special freshman like a James Talon to really succeed. Those graduates have all the experience in the world. They don't need to face a hitter at all in the fall, and so they can focus on those other aspects that maybe they didn't have the same resources at the previous school.
Yeah, and speaking of freshmen, you've got a lot of talented freshmen, but it looks like there's one that's kind of stood out. He's pitched a lot. It looks like you guys are gearing up to use him. The reason I keep remembering is it threw me off because I'd see a left-hander wearing the number 12, and I would be like, that's not Jonathan Santucci, but it is Henry Zatkowski. What are your thoughts on him and how good has he looked? Because I thought he's looked very well. I wouldn't have necessarily known it was a freshman throwing unless, I knew that it was a freshman throwing.
Yeah, like Henry's been great. And it's just with him, it's like sometimes I even worry about it is how slow his heart rate is. Like I don't think I've been around a freshman. Like even James Talon his freshman year, he would get that heart rate up and it helped him. He knew how to use it. He knew how to work off that adrenaline. I'm looking out there at Henry in a big situation in a moment he's never been in before. And I don't even know if he's sweating. It's like he's the same guy every day. You never know his expression, if he's failing, if it's succeeding. So that's one step that a lot of times you have to try to teach out a freshman from when they get there because they have never dealt with failure. I think with us, we've had freshmen. We've had 3 freshman All-Americans the last 2 years. We pitched freshmen a lot from the get-go. Over 2 years ago, it was over 200 innings with our freshmen. So a lot of part of that is bringing in the right ones, but also how we train and develop them in the fall, where they're ready to go. And right now, I'd look at us as almost like a 3-headed monster with left-handed pitching in that freshman class, with Henry and then Max Stammel, too, another low slot lefty from Texas. And then you throw in Kale Gahan in there as well. Those guys have a chance to throw a lot of innings in college baseball over the next 3 years, and have a lot of success. So, and with Henry and Max, it's like potential starters in the ACC, is where they're not too far away from right now, which is pretty special as freshmen.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anybody in fall camp that surprised you in a good way, like that it was even better than you thought they might be? Had it coming into the fall, or ending at the fall?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys there. Collins Black is a freshman out of Cary, that was dealing through some arm stuff throughout it, and was really good. Like he ended the fall really, really good with breaking ball, back in kind of sprinter type. It's a low 90s fastball. Probably might be able to touch mid 90s in there with a really good breaking ball. Talking about pieces that we can add to, and another one that's surprising is Roman DiGiacomo, who has one of the best personalities on the team, is pretty much strictly a pitcher now, which it might be breaking news here, but yeah. He threw throughout the whole fall for us, and it's a guy that it's an ultimate competitor, with some really good stuff, I think we were not just surprised by the stuff he could showcase, but just his composure and how he continued getting better throughout the fall. From a guy that's kind of caught bullpens a lot, and maybe hasn't had as many at bats as he wanted to. He's one of the best teammates on our team, and he showed a lot of strides on the mound this fall for just picking it up.
I love that. Yeah, because I don't think he was even listed as a pitcher in previous years, so I wasn't even aware that he had that in his back pocket. So to find out he's just a pitcher now is pretty cool. But yeah, last question I ask you. We talked about Gabe Nard having a breakout year and some of the other guys, but who do you think might have the breakout year this year? I mean, obviously you believe in all your guys, but is there anybody that not to put those expectations on, but is there anybody that you think might have that breakout year that people should know about?
That's a good question. I'd like to say there's a lot of guys, but I still go down with Aiden Weaver. It's a guy that has had some ups and downs his first 2 years, but it's a guy that comes to the field every single day and works extremely hard, is passionate, cares about everybody on the team, probably more than anybody. Like, he's just a great dude, but also just his strides and development throughout the fall. He's a guy that we've had to change a lot with him over the last 2 years. From, used to be a 1-8 to the plate with runners on base, and then within a week he was trying to be a 1-1. So it's like a guy that'll do anything, and his stuff is really, really good too. So I think he's going to put it together and have an awesome year for us. It's going to be his last year, just to the arm talent that he has. We developed a cutter with him in the fall that was 90-92 with really good metrics, and I think that would be a pitch that really help him complement his fastball that's been up to 99 and with a really good changeup. So he'd probably be the one that I'd say that's going to have a breakout year.
I imagine his confidence is also at an all-time high, given how well he pitched in the summer as well.
Yeah, and it's you saw that, you've seen the ACC and what goes into it. So like the summer ball, it gains a lot of confidence for guys that maybe been beaten down a little bit, and that's what the conference does. The conference beats you down, and that's why it's awesome. That's why it's the best baseball conference, because it can do that to you. And it's our job as coaches to make sure that it's a good falling spot when guys do get beaten down, and making sure that they're on the right path moving forward. And it's on my end, it's a big failure if I can't get Aiden Weaver able to show his potential that he has, because when he's on, it's 98-99 with a changeup that's 18 miles off of it, with really good command. Like, he's one of the best guys playing catch you've ever seen, and it's a 6'7" sculpted body out there on the mound. Like, so I guess that's my job, to try to get him in a place to succeed. But it's not a work ethic. It's not anything like that on his end. He does everything right every single day, from taking care of his body to his workouts to everything. So he's going to have a good one. You can mark that down.
All right. Love that. That's going to do it for us here. Coach, do you have any final thoughts you want to share with anybody before I let the audience go?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate this. This is awesome, what you're doing with the rest of the coaches in the conference, guys that I have relationships with, guys that I don't, enjoy listening and hearing what they have to say. I always constantly try to learn and try to pull things from other people, and doing that, getting to know some of those guys without even meeting them yet or before. It's been pretty cool to pull up Twitter and to watch some of these.
I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun just with everybody coming on and enjoying it. I just want to just keep bringing more ACC coverage and baseball in particular, because I think there's a lot of people missing out, on college baseball, but it is more popular than ever. So that's nice. But that's going to do it for us here. We're going to be off for this weekend, and we'll be back next week. I believe we've got Cal coach Mike New joining the show next week, and Matt Taylor of Georgia Tech to finish us off this series. Brady, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Monty.